We just did
Welcome back to our podcast, Redeemed. We're marching right along. We talked about the Tower of Babel last time. Now we're moving on into this section where we have this gentleman who does play a pretty big role in this. Oh, okay.
Pretty
large role. God uses him
there you go.
to play a big role here. Yeah. He really had nothing to do with it.
God, for some reason, he got his number called.
Yeah, and God said, "Yep, that one will do." Now, I like this man because he makes some good decisions. He makes some bad decisions, and through it all, God still uses it. You know what I'm saying?
I can relate,
and I can relate because I feel like I make good choices. Sometimes sometimes I'm on a roll and I make a lot of good choices.
Yeah,
and then I screw it all up, and I got to start all back over again. Yeah. So, this man. At this point, his name is Abram.
Yep.
And he really is going to be the father of the Israelite people.
Yes.
From his lineage, or his line of people, we will have what is known as Israel, God's chosen people. And for some reason, God chose him. That's just, and that's what the first part of that chapter 12 says. He comes down and says, I'm going to use you, I'm going to use your line, you're going to be my people. And he says, okay. And
who says no to that?
Yeah, the Lord appeared to Abram.
Awesome.
Yeah, the Lord appeared to Abram and said, to your offspring I will give this land. So he built an altar there to the Lord who appeared to him. And he continued on. And so that's kind of our intro into who Abram is. Eventually, yes, he will take on the name Abraham. But at this point, he's just Abram. Mm-hmm. There's a family. And this is part of this story that I always found interesting. It's one of those things that, we've talked many times, if not on the podcast, behind the scenes, at least, about one of the machines lets me go back when I get to heaven and just see how some of this stuff plays out.
VHS.
It's not going to be a VHS.
Michael thinks it's VHS. Maybe.
I'm not convinced.
But hey, I know how to work a VHS, so I'm good to go.
For every young kid, they'll be like, how do I watch this?
What is this stuff on the inside?
Yeah.
They better rewind those tapes. Just saying.
Oh, yeah, that's the worst. You turn it on and it's like the credits. Yeah. Like, no.
And then if you rewind it too fast and some of the tapes would unspool themselves.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. You kids don't get it.
Nope. I had to explain to my kid the other day what a CD was.
Yep.
That's where we are now.
Yep. Fair.
It's like it's true. They don't know what a CD is. No, they don't use CDs anymore.
Why would we do that, Dad? We just stream it.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
It's like, Dad.
Seriously. You were so 90s.
It's fair.
Hey, 90s were the best. I don't care what they say. Now, so we have Abraham. Famine in the land. He's got to go find food. They go to Egypt.
I also like to point out real fast.
Point it out.
He was 75 years old when God came to him.
Yeah.
Yes, but how old was Noah when he was on the boat?
I think, when did he die? He died when he was...
Noah? 950.
Was it 950?
Yeah, 950. I know, it's crazy. I just like to see that. It's like...
Shoot, in the long scheme of things, that's like a 14-year-old.
That's what I'm saying. But it was just like, it's crazy, he's 75 years old.
He's just now starting on...
Just getting rolling.
Yeah.
It's like, finally. Just getting limbered up here.
So they head off to Egypt. And apparently you can still look pretty good at 75 because, unless Sarai was younger than him, maybe. I don't know. I don't know that.
I don't think.
I figured they were about around the same age, but that's not necessarily true.
Doesn't say I'm reading here.
But there was a severe famine in the land. They had to go to Egypt. Now the commentary says, why Egypt? Egypt had the Nile. And so therefore they could irrigate from the Nile River, which then became them basically the breadbasket of that region.
We also covered that in 6th grade history.
Did you? Good for you.
The Nile is still in Egypt.
Yeah, still there. The Nile.
I like that he said they had it.
They had it.
They had it.
Well, was
gone now.
They lost it for a little while and gave it back.
If you don't like the way I tell these...
You must be this tall to use the Nile.
Although I don't think there's much of the Nile. It's so irrigated now. It's not much of a river anymore. So
I think it's a raging river.
Yeah.
If we were going to take a Mulan quote, but yes.
So anyway, But that's why they had the food.
Yeah.
And that's all I was trying to get at. That's why Egypt had food, okay? It's because the Nile River was in Egypt. They could irrigate, grow food, okay? And then you got to be a smart person over there, all right?
I feel like that's why I'm here. I hit record and then I just interject things that don't need to be interjected.
Anyway, we're off course. So there's a famine. They go to Egypt. He's got a problem, or he thinks he's got a problem. His wife is very pretty, and he thinks that the Pharaoh, once he sees his wife, will kill him because his wife's so pretty. So he said, "You're going to have to lie, or we're going to have to lie about this. Tell him you're my sister."
Yep.
Personally, I don't think that was like
I'm not sure that was the plan. I don't know if that should have been what was decided.
It's what he went with.
It's what he went with.
In his head, he was thinking, "Yep, that's going to work. This is smart.
Nailed it.
What could go wrong?"
Yeah. Well,
there's some things that went right, but there's some things that could have gone wrong. I mean, the Lord was definitely on his side because it didn't go as bad as what could have happened.
Yeah.
So, of course, Pharaoh notices Sarai.
Yep.
And notices she's very pretty. Takes her in as one of his concubines. Which still, just that.
Abram was just like, "See ya.
And apparently,
Thanks for the cattle."
it's like we were having the discussion before this, and it's just like Sarai was all right with all of this, I guess?
well, probably not, but she probably didn't get much of a choice.
Yeah,
that was
the only thing
time
we
for
could
women.
figure is that they were seen as
It's property.
property, and so they didn't have much say so. So anyway, but as soon as Sarai moves into the Pharaoh's house, there's begin to have problems.
Yeah. Also, not to forget that Abram was very well compensated for Sarai.
Sheep, cattle, donkeys, servants, and camels.
She must have been really pretty.
She must have been really pretty.
Pharaoh was super rich too. That's also important. It's like all that stuff. Yeah, sure, whatever. All you, dude.
There you go. But then Pharaoh's family began getting sick, and somewhere along the way he figures it out, and figures out that Sarai is Abram's wife, and he's not real happy about it.
No.
You know,
It's like, bro,
Yeah.
why didn't you tell me she was your wife? Why did you say she's my sister? So that I took her to be my wife. Now then, here is your wife. Take her and go. Looks like you also got to keep all the stuff you got too.
that's what it says. Yeah, it says send him away. Yeah.
Maybe Abram just maybe he was just a mastermind.
It could have been.
We're going to get lots of stuff. You're
Don't
probably going to get out of it. Don't worry.
This is probably going to work.
Sarai, don't screw this up. This is where we get our start.
Listen, this is a gamble, but we're going to take it.
We're going to roll the dice. Worst case scenario, I get a ton of stuff.
Yeah, I don't think he put that much thought into it.
No.
What's interesting though is that this same scenario will play out again with one of his offspring.
Yep.
It has always, that's one of those things that's always just amazed me.
You think he told him the story?
I don't know.
He was like, guess what we did in Egypt one time? And then he was like, that's got to work for me too.
I could call back on that. We could do it.
That
We'll
would
run
be-
that back.
That would make the story more interesting.
Yeah.
Hey, my dad told me this story,
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
and
This
it worked
out
for him.
them.
Yeah.
He got a whole bunch of camels.
They all looked at each other. That didn't happen.
Yeah.
It was a bad call. Okay, lying
That's
is never the option to take, and Abraham was only lucky because God was watching out for him.
Yeah.
If God had not been a part of that, Abraham probably would have lost his head, but he didn't. Okay, the Lord was watching over him, taking care of him, and said, "Okay, you goofball, you've messed this up." But
We're going to say that a few more times as we go through the story of Abram.
God had to be like, what are we doing?
Yes.
What are we doing, Abram?
I wonder if God ever got to the point, I chose this guy.
which you also have to respect Pharaoh.
Yeah.
Because when he found out, he didn't go crazy. You know what I'm saying?
No, he probably just wanted the disease to stop.
Yeah.
It's like, dude, talk to your God. Please make him stop.
Please stop. She's not that great.
Yeah. And we didn't know.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Thought we had a fair exchange here.
So anyway, just because God selects you doesn't mean that you don't have the opportunity to make bad mistakes. Okay?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I guarantee you. I mean, God knew. I mean, I believe God knew that Abram was going to do this. Yes.
Yeah.
But I don't believe it was the plan that He wanted him to take.
No.
No. I'm sure the plan was simply go in, get the food,
Get out.
get out.
Yeah. Move on with life.
Yeah.
Then God sees, it's like, okay, he's going to do this. wonder if it's just one of those,
Oh, man.
okay.
Yeah.
Now I have to inflict disease. I have to do all
Now I
these
gotta get
extra
him out of
things.
this mess.
Now you're gonna make me work.
I do think that in my life. God looks at me and is like,
Yeah, like really, man.
okay, now I gotta do all these things
Yeah.
to this big dummy.
We couldn't do it the easy way.
So just make sure that you tell the truth. I mean, honestly, that's all it would have taken. The Lord was on Abram's side the whole time. If he had told the truth, things would have been just fine that way too. You know what I'm saying? And would have avoided a whole headache.
Abram didn't have enough trust in God.
That's it.
Clearly.
He did not trust God enough to know that, because I mean, he gave him the promise.
Yeah.
You're
You're probably
offspring.
not gonna die.
And at this point, he has no offspring.
Right. Yeah, that's fair. So, like, how is God
know?
gonna fulfill the promise he made?
1 and 1 equals 2 here, Abram. Just saying.
so
Yeah.
So anyway, I don't understand why he chose to do that. Obviously he feared for his life, and so he thought that was
what it was.
And he was thinking he probably in the end was protecting Sarai too, because
Yeah, I mean, he thought he was doing the right thing.
Mm-hmm.
I think
No, I think she would have been good either way.
that's fair.
I mean, I think, you know,
Yeah.
absolutely.
like, I'll kill Abram and then, you know.
Yeah.
That's true.
I want to.
He was watching his own.
I want to meet her.
Sarai.
Yeah, I want to see what all the hullabaloo was about all this.
Yeah. What was your thought? I want to see the look on her face
Yeah.
when he tells her, like, I'm going to tell him that you're my sister.
Are you gonna tell him? Yeah. I'm gonna tell him. You tell him.
I gotta tell him.
I know he didn't ask, but I'm going to tell him.
I'm gonna tell him. Like I said, just Genesis is just full of just awesome stories, and stories that, I mean, in some way we can relate to, because we're going to come upon those times in our life where we have to make a decision. We need to make sure that when we do, we're not doing it with a lie. I just don't believe that anytime you do it with a lie, you're going to be successful.
Absolutely.
And so always do it with the truth. And trust God. If God tells you he's going to do something, he's going to do something. I mean, that's what we just talked about with the rainbow.
Facts.
Yeah.
So God doesn't go back on his word.
Stick to the plan.
Absolutely. It'll save yourself a lot of heartache. All right. You guys have a great week. We'll talk to you next time.